Hi guys, welcome to Texas Tuesday. I'm live. I'm still figuring out how to do this. So today I want to Hi guys, welcome to Texas turn off Tuesday. My audio. There we go. Today I want to go over, yes, some of the best cities in Texas, but also I'm going to go through some questionnaires that some of you have filled out on my website, or if you click the link below, you can fill out the Dream Home Questionnaire. And I want to show you the process that we as agents go through to help you narrow down where to live. And so we do, once you fill out the Dream Home Questionnaire, you will have a one-on-one opportunity with one of our expert agents who they are out in the field every day. They understand the market and they can help you narrow down where to live. They know the best cities, schools, all that good stuff that you care about, okay? But you can schedule one-on-one with them on when you fill out the Dream Home Questionnaire. I have one right here that I'm going to go over. But what I want to do is I want to show you kind of what our process is when you fill out the Dream Home Questionnaire and we as agents. So we have something that you have heard about. It's the MLS, and it's different in searching the MLS than say Zillow or anything like that, because it's the actual software at which we can filter. Zillow and even my website, it all gets pushed from the MLS, which means sometimes there's software glitches. So when you hear things like, oh, Zillow's not updated, Zillow's not accurate, it's because sometimes there's software glitches. And so a home may be showing active when it's really under contract and all that. So I want to show you. So I'm on Zoom, which means I can share my screen. All right, let's do that. All right, here's my screen. What I have for you, it's like I X out of, well, I don't want to X out of this because you may be talking to me. Okay, here we go. I'm gonna X out of that. Okay, so here's Dallas-Fort Worth. First off, I want to show you, if you are looking at the state of Texas, it's very, very big. It's vast. And so there are many opportunities. So I'd say the first step to narrowing down where to live in Texas, if you say, hey, I'm moving to Texas and maybe you don't have employment secured yet, or maybe you work for yourself and you can choose wherever you want to live. So the best thing is obviously research the major cities. And even if you don't want to live in Dallas, it could be a suburb, right? Houston, Austin, San Antonio. Here's the Panhandle and West Texas, East Texas. Okay, so let's just talk briefly about these major cities. Okay, so Dallas is Dallas-Fort Worth. Well, let me back up. Austin is our capital. Houston is the largest city in Texas. Okay, people go to Houston mainly for the employment opportunities. There's a plethora of employment opportunities. It's continuing to grow. Oil, gas. There's so many opportunities for employment in Houston. Dallas-Fort Worth. Dallas is the second largest city, but Dallas-Fort Worth combined, we call it the DFW Metroplex. That is, as a whole, that's the largest metropolitan area in Texas. And so if you say, hey, I'm going to spend the weekend, drive around Dallas-Fort Worth, you may be very overwhelmed because it is pretty large. Okay. Then next is Austin as far as size-wise, then San Antonio. Pros and cons. The most beautiful area is probably going to be the Hill Country, which is west of Austin. You also get your trees, your tall trees, beautiful tree areas in East Texas. So where you see it's a little darker on the map, and it kind of goes down into Houston as well. I love Houston because of some of the trees, like Sam Houston National Park. Then when you're in this where it looks brown or tan, I say that's the most boring drive of your life. It's very flat. Now, I can say when you're up in Amarillo and you go to like the city of Canyon, that's a nice suburb of Amarillo. There are some really nice canyons that are really cool. You have to check them out. But pretty much it's flat land here. When The further south you go, the more humid it gets. So just think, I was just in Miami a few weeks ago and it was 88 degrees and I was like, whoa, it's so humid. And their 88 humidity, I would much rather have, I came home to 100-degree temperature and I thought, I would take my 100-degree temperature any day over 88 Miami. That was so I relate, South Texas to kind of Miami. It maybe not that humid, but it can get pretty humid. Every time I go to San Antonio, I don't know what it is, but it's very humid. So the closer you get to the Gulf, the more humid it is. So I am a little partial to Dallas Fort Worth because the housing, I live here, but also it's less humid. We do have humid days, but less humid. Okay. So there's pros and cons. It is beautiful here in the hill country. There are some areas in Dallas Fort Worth where you can find some hills, and we can talk about that probably another day, actually. But if you're wanting tall trees, it's probably East Texas. But for a suburb, Dallas Fort Worth, Austin, Houston, they have a plethora of jobs right now. And but first you want to narrow it down to that, okay? And I have several that are looking in other areas as well, other than Dallas Fort Worth. Okay, so that's your first step. Maybe your second step, if schools are important, one of the things that I do that is void of public opinion, which I'm not saying public opinion isn't great or gives you an idea, but sometimes people have reviews and they're not accurate. So I like to go to schooldigger.com and narrow it down by if schools are important to the district, or you could search city, okay? And this is where you'll see Carroll Independent School District, that's in Southlake, as number 1. Now, some of these make the list, like this charter school, but there's no high school, right? So I like to be fair and say, which one has a elementary, middle, and high school. And so that's how I narrow it down to test scores. Keep in mind, this was last updated. It says rank score 2021, but 2019. So last year wasn't a fair year. So we may see some shifting going on, okay? But don't necessarily get stuck on this, meaning I believe that schooling has, we are in partnership with these schools, but parenting is very important too. But what I like about the school districts is if you generally put education as a high priority, you're probably going to get similar families like that. So anyway, this is a resource that I use. I'm just going to click off that just to show you. And then school districts here, I kind of created one from that website just on ranking, okay, and price point. If you want this, then email me, say, Dana, will you send me the top DFW schools list? And the email will be in the link below, but it's danapollardgroup@gmail.com, danapollardgroup@gmail.com. Anyway, so this is a good list because it also gives you price points, right? Because that's important. So the first step in narrowing down where to live in Texas is narrow it down to your top, the metropolitan area or the city, right? Then if schools are important, narrow it down for schools. And you have to keep in mind that Texas is very large. And so even if you're in the top 30 percentile of schools, you're still doing okay. Okay. And I don't feel like you have to get stuck on Carroll ISD because there's pros and cons to Carroll ISD, because while they have a high college, high SAT scores, they go out to college and graduation rate, there's also very high competition. So there's some pros and cons there, okay? But the other thing I wanted to show you is the best schools. I have a picture here of where they're located in Dallas Fort Worth. Dallas Fort Worth actually has the most that rank high in the schools list versus the other cities. Like Austin has some great schools, and so does Houston and Austin. But as far as the amount of choices you have, it's overwhelming in Dallas Fort Worth. So where there is a red button is showing the best in the top 20% of schools. And these are showing where the newest homes are, usually around, like today I have people around the 500, anywhere from $200,000 to $500,000 price point. And so this would be a very good map. Now, if you're in the $1 million price point, You can find some great new homes. And depending on where, like if you want to be closer to Dallas, or say you want to be in Southlake or Colleyville or Westlake, then we're looking at prices are probably 2 million plus to get a new home there. So other than that, we're looking at these are new homes. So email me if you want some of these resources. Okay, next thing I want to do. Okay, let's talk about some of these dream home questionnaires. This is our MLS. And I love it because if I put in some search criteria here, this one is a real person. These people, Melissa and Alex, if you're on, hello. They're looking for a home, 400,000 to 500,000, and I like it because I can enter the information here and kind of help narrow down where to live. So they had suggested maybe Fort Worth, Keller, Grapevine, Southlake, and Argyle, and square footage and all that. So, but what I love is it shows us down here how many matches search their basic criteria. So, for instance, the reason it's so good is to say how realistic are their expectations. And so this is what your agent will do on a one-on-one consultation when you fill out the dream home questionnaire. So what I like is that, say some people say it's an absolute must for me to have a pool. Well, that just narrowed your choices down to 11 matches. Melissa and Alex's is not, they'd like a pool, but it's not required. So we leave it that. When the home was built, if that's important, then I would put it here too. That's one thing that gets people hung up on where they're going to live, is if they want a brand new home, or say 10 years or 20 years or newer, sometimes that can put a damper on what we have. So for instance, if I want a year built in 2010 or newer, this is what we have to choose from. But I would say this, Fort Worth is probably opening that up significantly, so I'm going to delete that. And then we have, a handful of matches. Since school year built is not important, maybe I'll put like 1980. How about that? Then we can kind of see where on a map are they? Where are these homes, right? Or if I did put Fort Worth back in, we can even look on a map where we're at. So if schools are not important, there are some pretty cool homes down here in this general Fort Worth area, and some really cool homes. Now on the School Digger, they rank pretty low as far as test scores, but I do like that it shows it. Fort Worth is very large, and so it encompasses a large area for land. But if you knew that you wanted to be close, let me just kind of go over this with you real fast. So they want a 2-car garage, 3-bedroom. They really like parks and trails. And there's a place on the questionnaire that you can fill out some more details. So they have 2 young children. They're from Washington, and they already have family in Dallas. They want to be within 45 minutes because more than 45 minutes will be too far. And by the way, if you're moving to Texas and your commute for work is more than 45 minutes, people don't like that here in Texas. So they like to commute anywhere from 20 to 30, maybe 45 minutes max. Some people do commute longer, but the majority of people are like, once it hits 45 minutes, they don't want to commute longer. So if you're from an area like California and the commute's an hour and a half, we don't do that here. They like single stories that are spread out. They like grilling, entertaining, in a good school district. So they kind of like, they're not quite sure which city might meet their needs. So I want to kind of go through that, right? And I would say if they like a home that's a little more spread out, but you want to be within 45 minutes of Dallas, this is where I really love the Google Maps. Is if you put in Dallas here, then you can kind of get an idea. So I'd say Fate, Texas. If the new home was important, I'd maybe say Fate. Okay, here's Fate up here, 33 minutes, 28 miles, but that would fit their criteria. So it's kind of pretty similar. Now, this is what's interesting. If you wanted to go to Wiley to get to downtown, that would be an option too. I really like Wiley. Wiley might be an option for you guys because you do have some neighborhoods that are spread out a little bit. Now it does feel a little more country, but it's in Collin County, so they're developing really well. Right up here are some new homes in St. Paul, but those are going to be closer together. If you want some homes that are further apart, you are probably going to go a little older versus newer. These new home subdivisions are going to be pretty tight, most of them, until you get to either the country areas or the higher price points, right? So I'd say if you want to be within 45 minutes of Dallas, you do have some options. Keller is nice. Keller does have some wonderful neighborhoods. Hidden Lakes is one of my favorite neighborhoods in Keller. That's in the price point that you're targeting, and it's really nice. There's parks there, there's walking trails. Very, very family friendly community in Keller called Hidden Lakes. So that may be a very good option. One thing I don't like about Keller, but it's still within your criteria, and also depending where your family lives in Dallas, they could be up here. One thing I don't like about Keller is it takes a good 10 minutes. Say you live, like here's Hidden Lakes here. It takes you a little while to get from Keller to a major freeway. So it takes 10 minutes, which doesn't sound like a lot until you add your commute time on that. So, but I do love Keller. Very good family friendly community. Has some taller maybe not tall trees, but some more mature trees. Some of the homes are spaced a little further because they're built mainly in the 90s, okay, in 2000s as well. So Keller would definitely be a place that I would recommend. Let me go over Grapevine. Grapevine is good. The schools, I can't remember. You said you'd want to be in the top 5% of schools. There are some good schools in Grapevine. I would say Keller may be more of a family-friendly community. Not there aren't families in Grapevine, but just thinking. Grapevine's great because there's the lake and there's some good parks down there. There's a lot of activities downtown. That's what Grapevine has that Keller doesn't as much. Keller does have like a farmer's market, but Grapevine has this really cool downtown area to hang out at. Keller has a downtown area, but it's not as, hey, I'm gonna go hang out there. It's still getting revitalized, kind of in a slow manner. But Keller is not far from South Lake where everyone goes to hang out. You're just gonna have to drive 10 minutes to go to South Lake Town Square. Or you could go to Roanoke, where there's a really cute downtown area. Roanoke is one of my favorite communities. It may fit your budget as well. You may consider Roanoke. But this neighborhood in particular just has so many parks and walking trails that people love in Hidden Lakes, okay? So those are some thoughts. South Lake, I don't think we're gonna hit the budget for South Lake. South Lake, we are now probably looking more at $750 entry to get into South Lake. Price point because they just shot up so much so quickly. Argyle is definitely an option. Again, Argyle is going to be a little further out. So you're right at 45 minutes, okay? And there's a new neighborhood over here called it's really in North Lake, but some go to Argyle schools and some go to Northwest ISD. Both are great schools. Argyle definitely is smaller and higher on the rankings, but still good. Argyle is probably one of the more scenic areas of Dallas-Fort Worth. I'd recommend Argyle. So I think you're doing really well in narrowing it down. I would say Keller, Argyle, Roanoke, Trophy Club. Guys, I did a video recently on Trophy Club. Yes. Uh, Trophy Club is so small that we forget to mention it. But Trophy Club is beautiful. We recently had, I've had several families move into Trophy Club recently, and we're just wowed. They bought a home by video. I know that someone else had mentioned they are going to purchase by video, and they are just wowed and ecstatic at the city of Trophy Club and the houses there. Trophy Club has hills. They have mature trees. It's very small. If you drive through, they say they are the lowest crime rate. I'm really not supposed to talk about crime rates. You're supposed to go do your research. That's what they say when you drive through. And the homes are older, can be built in the 70s, 80s, and 90s. There are some newer subdivisions as well in the, say, 600 price point plus, but some of these older homes, they're all custom built. And there are no two homes alike in Trophy Club. So I love Trophy Club. That may be an option. And you're not far from the lake. There's a park there, dog park. Those are some really, and the schools are great. Schools are, for the city of Trophy Club, they're in Northwest ISD, which is about the 15 percentile, but the schools in particular, elementary in Trophy Club, rank very high. So I wouldn't be concerned about schools in Trophy Club at all. The high school, by the time you get to high school, it's about a 7, I think, the Byron Nelson, which is still good. It's people, the reputation of Byron Nelson is very good in the area, even though it's a 7 versus like a 9 or 10 in South Lake, but it's still great reputation. I definitely recommend it. Okay, so that's just, that's kind of the process that we do. It's more detailed when we have a one-on-one consultation with you. But and then we can start going through some of these homes. And one thing we cannot do is we can't filter out how updated it is. We can filter out age and things like that. But we just like to kind of go through these. Oh, just a brief mention. This zip code 76244 in Crawford Farms, this is a good zip code. So it's Keller Schools. Okay, great schools. It's in the city of Fort Worth, but Keller Schools. And so on a map, I want to show you, this is a very good area. And if you're an investor, this is like a great, great location for investment property because people want this zip code for the schools. But the price point is a little lower. So meaning you can get into this zip code at 250,000, especially for your my $200,000 to $400,000 buyers. This is a good zip code to buy without having to go so far. Or maybe you want really good schools. This is a very hot area. And Heritage Trace is there's a beautiful neighborhood there. And right here is Alliance and Presidio Village, and there's a lot of shopping here. So let me zoom out so you can kind of see where it's at. So here's Fort Worth. It's considered North Fort Worth. We call it Fort Keller because it used to be Keller. They rezoned it to Fort Worth. And it's a really good area, especially investment-wise. Whether you're going to move into it as a family or purchase to rent out, it's a very, very good investment. Anything east of 35 is a really good investment, but even west, it's just going to feel a little more country up here. But there's great shopping here. The negative of this North Fort Worth area is the traffic because they're doing construction. Okay, the construction is crazy to say the least, but once it's done, they're actively working on it. It will be really good. Just a brief thought on this area, especially if you're in the $200,000 to $500,000 price point. It's a very good family-friendly area within 45 minutes of Dallas. Okay, that actually covers many of the questionnaires that we have for their price point. So this is what I would say. I'm looking at, I have several questionnaires here. Plano, Frisco, McKinney, Flower Mound, Allen, and Prosper. I want to comment on these cities because we kind of been focusing on the Fort Worth side. I'm gonna move my, let's talk a little bit about North Dallas, okay? If you're in the price point, say 300,000 to 500,000, these areas up here, 500, it's hard to get into Prosper under 500 now. So if Prosper, because it just blew up with 2020, right? 2020, 2021. It's the overflow of Frisco. Well, now the overflow is Salina. So Salina is the next hot city. They're building some beautiful new subdivisions, and it's going to be the up and up. But it does feel like the country galore, ladies and gentlemen. Anything north of 380 feels like the country, okay? But if you're in Melissa, it's a great one. If you're under $500,000, it's family friendly community, top 5% of schools in the, you can just hop on Highway 75 and beeline down anywhere you want to go, okay? They're finishing this tollway, Dallas North Tollway, and so Salina will be pretty accessible as well once they get that finished. So that's a good area. But this is, your value is going to be in Melissa, Northwest McKinney right up here. And I mean, Prosper is a good investment. Just know that you're probably looking at 6 to 1.2 million in Prosper right now. And Little Elm, I wouldn't discount. It's 30 percentile schools, but it's a great value. And I think that we're going to start seeing those test scores start to raise up because we have so many educated, well, I'd say families who value education are moving into Little Elm. So I think that you're going to start seeing those, the rankings go up in Little Elm, but it's real close to the lake, great trees. So those are some great cities. Plano, let's talk about Plano and Allen. Plano, there are some parts of Plano that are fantastic and some parts that you're like, it's a little grubby. But so you're going to get mixed reviews on Plano, and you're going to get, if you drive, you may go, wow, Plano's amazing, or you may drive through and go, wow, Plano's not as what it's cracked up to be. But Plano has anywhere from $200,000 homes to $6 million homes. So, I mean, there's just a wide variety. We like Plano because I say it's the tech capital of Texas. There's so many tech jobs in Plano. There are also healthcare jobs. I mean, there's just so much going on in Plano. It's like its own city, right? I mean, it is a city, but many like tall buildings city. There's some tall buildings in Plano. Has great shopping areas, eateries. It's freaking amazing. You know, my favorite is Legacy West. And then Allen is just north of that. Allen has fantastic schools, guys. If schools are a hot button, Allen might be your choice. And then there's so much shopping. You have outlet shopping, you have high-end shopping, and it's right close to Fairview, which has top schools as well. Fairview is more of a luxury city. And so Allen, I wouldn't discount Allen. I would put that on the list unless you don't want your kids going, if your kids are going to be in public school, it's the largest high school, right? It's this ginormous high school. If you don't want your kids feeling like they're going to a college campus, then Allen might not be your choice. It's so big. If you want some country, but not too far from Dallas, Lucas is your country area. Prices can be $450 on up into the millions. It's a country town, but it has acreage, and there's some neighborhoods there that are about the $500,000 price point. That's really nice as well. And you can get a brand new home in the like 1.2 to 2 million here as well. It's really, really nice. All of these cities here, Murphy, Parker, Wiley, Sachse's up and coming. But these cities are nice cities to live in, great family-friendly communities. They're up there in the schools, so don't discount these. It's just, the only thing I don't like about these is it's kind of like Keller, where it's all these stoplights just to get to a major freeway. Frisco is definitely the hot spot right now. Great schools, hot spot, new and shiny, but it's still difficult to get a home there. But we are sensing that the market's pulling back a little bit. So, you know, that might be a possibility. So those are just some ideas today off the top of my head. Just some chit chatter, right? Okay, I'm still working. I need to just hire somebody, guys. I'm still working on my YouTube software and how to check comments and all that good stuff. So forgive me because I'm doing this alone today. Next week, our team will be back. I will be live with our team for them to give their input on some of these dream home questionnaires if you're looking for a home or thinking about moving to Texas. And we'll have them contribute to some of these areas and go through the questionnaires one by one. So anyway, thank you guys so much for tuning in, and I will take a look. If you have any questions, email me. That's going to be the best way, or fill out the dream home questionnaire. But email me at danapollardgroup@gmail.com. Thanks so much for tuning